Make sure, got to make sure this is aimed up, yeah, so we don't, nothing down. Make sure it's aimed up. Welcome. Once you finish the form, gentlemen, just you can bring up any observations, discussion points, or questions. Hey Todd, you're in the academy, right? You can jump into the actual live and ask me questions there. So if you go into the academy group, you have the access to the Zoom session. You came into the YouTube. This is for the family group. Alrighty. Questions, observations, discussion points. Good to see you, Captain Water.
Good thinking. Thinking is so good.
Yeah, man. It's the best. It's the best.
Thank you, Sifu. Awesome.
Yeah. If you sink the energy, right, as you sink the energy or ether down, it really is a great gateway into letting go. Like, letting go seems to be of a similar quality as you move the energy out of the thought forms, like as you dissolve its power. So yeah, so sinking is awesome. What other observations, discussion points, or questions we got for today?
The tonsil movement, and you showed this to me a long time ago.
Yeah.
Drop a hand, does it come up the center?
Yep.
And then cross over just a little bit with the wrist?
So the wrist ideally will stay on the center the whole time. So you see it just rotates on the center. See how it's
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it stays on the center, so we keep that connection. And that's a real primary principle within the Sifu Tao, is to maintain that central connection with approximately the wrist. The wrist is the approximation, you know. Of course, it's not always on the center because it has to move from the outside to the center, but once it's here, it stays connected. So you'll see a lot of the movements are, like even the bong sao, the wrist stays in the center. Like the center of the wrist pivots.
Just see, as it rolls over, the fingers cross over.
Yeah, that's right. The fingers do, but the wrist stays, yeah. Because the fingers, yeah, they'll come across, that's right. But this still maintains its line.
Thank you.
Pleasure.
In the initial tonsil, is there absence of bend in the wrist, or as we're coming from here to here, is there any bend in the wrist as it starts to come out, or do we keep it pretty much straight and then just use the arm to bring it forward?
The wrist subtly bends, like
so. Subtly snakes.
So see how it starts like kind of flat, right? And then as you come through, it starts to like.
Yeah.
You see how it changes.
That's what I've been doing, but then I was like, maybe I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah, it's fine. And that angle can change, of course, according to the dynamics of a contact situation. But the concept stays the same. The fingertips big, and so the line from the middle finger through up to the shoulder joint. So if you drew a line up through there, that's all being kind of magnetically pulled into the power plane. No matter where the tansao starts, it's always magnetically pulled into the power plane so that you dominate the inner gate and connect to their center of mass, or to their center, sorry.
Absolutely, yeah. And in the other kung fu forms I've done too, there's like there's ability to grab right there, you know, and have a little bit of friction, you know, as well. So totally.
So something I'd like you guys to be aware of is just something to keep in mind before anyone shares any observations or questions, is that moment to moment to moment, we are vitalizing our thought forms. You know, so any moment you're giving energy to a thought form. Sup Todd, welcome. So what I'm getting at is you want to be conscious of what you think about, because what you think about you energize with your vitality. And the whole idea in Kung Fu is that we want to be energizing our center with our highest intention. That's why it's good to think of that person, place, or thing, or event, or symbol which uplifts your frequency as you center. Because the ideal is to maintain your mind constantly on the spirit, yeah? Say on that uplifted quality, because then that brings the infusion of the spirit into the body much easier than if you're focusing on problems or things that drain your energy. Fear, doubt, anger, worry, blame, complaint, resentment. That's where letting go becomes powerful as well. So essentially, my Cypriot master, the meditation and healing teacher, would call them elementals. And he called thought forms, he called them elementals, because they're made of the elements. And we're vitalizing these elementals, these thought forms, moment to moment to moment. So it's just something to be aware of, because our personality is constructed of all these different thought forms. And our job as Kung Fu guys, especially as guys, there's a few teachers in here, want to be energizing the thought forms that are uplifting to ourselves and others. Make sense? It's a very simple equation. Just remember what you think about, you bring about. Cool. Any other questions, observations, discussion points while we're here?
So you don't want to take the approach when you're rolling with someone that I'm going to beat you or harm you with love and
yeah. So it's more about connection and stay in state. So it's a good discussion point. Like when you're chi-saing with someone, the thing is that the objective is skill development. So a lot of the time when people chi-sao, especially when you start, it's a kind of an ego thing. I want to beat this person. But training is for developing skill. So the context is that as you chi-sao, you're thinking about maintaining state. Your objective is to stay centered in your intention as you connect to them. That will allow your body to stay in that released, soft condition and react in the fastest, most powerful, spontaneous way. So two things come to that discussion point. First thing, what are you doing in training? Developing skill. So if skill development is the priority, then the question becomes, okay, how do I develop skill? Okay, the way we develop skill is by staying in the state whilst under pressure. It's not about beating the other person. Beating the other person is for real fights. That's for real fights and competitions. But if you can stay in state and continue to cultivate your internal condition, your internal power, then the funny thing is you end up beating the person anyway. So it's kind of a roundabout approach to getting to what you can't anyway. Good. All right. What other things do we have?
So when I'm doing the state training,
Yep.
and I'm trying to relax everything in my body,
Yes.
I'm finding a lot of pressure going into my knees, my feet.
Awesome.
I'm just going, that almost becomes a bit of a distraction.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That's a really
Just
good.
because I'm feeling all that.
Yeah, that's a good sign. So what's that say? What that says, and that's a common experience for people as they start the internals, is that your upper body is starting to release and relax, and the weight is now being carried by the legs. That's fantastic, because it's showing you where in your lower body you're carrying the weight, as opposed to allowing it to travel and release the same way your upper body is. So that activity in the legs, which is distracting, is a good distraction. You want to go, oh, wonderful. Now I can see what I need to release in my legs. That weight and pressure and heaviness in the legs will release, and you'll start to be using your actual structure, so your skeleton, as the main way to hold yourself up. So the pressure and tension and activity in the legs is communicating to you where you're holding on in the legs, and also how do I actually use my structure to hold myself up, so I'm not using the force of the muscular system. So the way to then, okay, so now we know what's happening there. The next point is, Okay, how? How do we now move into the structure into a way so that it doesn't tighten up? So correct centering is the first gateway, meaning earth, so sense that spot down in the earth in between your feet and rise up through the tailbone to above the crown. So focus on the center. Now from the center, you sense the whole space. So you're sensing your whole space, your physical mass and the actual energetic space. And as you stay centered and sync and sense, that will dissolve those activity points in your legs. So correct centering and sensing, what you'll find is that majority, probably 99% of your developments come back to the state. How do I apply the state in a way to dissolve tensions, for example, in this case? So number one, congratulations, that's fucking awesome. If you're noticing tension building in the legs, that means you're releasing tension from the upper body. Because it's now getting carried in the legs, right? Which means you're going to be able to connect your spine to your limbs much easier because of the lack of tension in the upper body, number one. And as the muscles release and dissolve, you'll be able to send intention and energy through the system, because any blockage prevents the flow through your system. So that's good news, bro. You should be, so now that you know it's good, you actually want to approach it in a good way. So this is another little, one last hack. When you notice tension and activity, the best habit to have is, oh great, this is an opportunity to release tension. Because if you get frustrated and annoyed by it, you compound it. You understand?
Yeah.
So this is the Kung Fu way of approaching tension, stress, upset, strain. Oh great, what a wonderful opportunity to release it. Get it? Because that brings you to a higher field of energy to release it faster. Good.
Cool.
Good stuff, Charlie. Redman, what you got, brother?
What's good?
What's good? I love that.
What's Charlie's thing too? What I feel is that like releasing or letting go, like also like just makes me feel like elevated. So it's like, and then thinking of that space between the floor and the feet, and like releasing it down there. But I had a question on Sifu Tao, the one-legged one. I was wondering where your feet are pointed. So like, let's say you're on two legs, they're going towards the center in a triangle. So if it's one leg, is it still pointed this way or is it straight?
Straight.
Because you're now on one.
Yeah, because you're now on one leg straight. Yeah, because it's kind of hard to turn it in. You'll be a bit awkward. I mean, you could. It's not wrong to have it slightly inward, but you know, having it straight is not harmful. Yeah.
Because I found it like it was easier even. Like I was trying to. Well, first I was trying to do that. Then I was going there, and then I was going out because it was like a easier like.
Look, to be honest with you, even out is fine. Let's really look at what.
Okay.
Even out is fine. The most important thing is the condition. You have a physical body and you also have an etheric body. Further, you have an emotional, mental, and spiritual body. But let's just go to the first two, physical and etheric. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day what position your physical body is in, as long as your etheric body, meaning the intention leading the actual energy, meaning where your physical body will end up, is going in the right direction. So as long as you're focusing through the power plane and everything's being pulled into that direction, then it's okay.
Yeah.
So if you are pointing your foot out, it's not that big a deal as long as you've got the state on, as long as you're funneling everything back into the center. Yeah, like as my master would say, once you have the state, you no longer need the stance because you've become the stance, regardless of where your physical position is. Once you are the state, you no longer need the stance. Once the cake is baked, you no longer need the cake tin.
Yeah, no, cause I thought if I put my foot out way, that like it wouldn't be centered or forward, but then like putting my it creates like a easier structure for me to like focus on like the form and going forward and bounce and whatnot. But that makes sense too, cause like your foot isn't necessarily physically going forward, so you can just like hold it there and like have your intention go forward, if that makes sense.
That's right.
Yeah.
Oh, it makes perfect sense. So think of the power plane, right? And then imagine water just flowing through your whole body into the power plane from behind you, regardless of position, you know?
Right. Well, one more thing. That's my bad. But
That's right.
I think it's funny too, cause like there's a lot of other martial artists, Wing Chun practitioners, who are like not in the stance, but then they don't have the state, cause they're just like they're all combat, whatever.
Yeah.
So
the state trumps everything. That's why my master was called the King of Silam Tao, because he found the power in Silam Tao, which is the necessary. If you want to have maximum power in your Wing Chun and just in martial arts in general, the state's the key. Without it, you can like any Wing Chun which doesn't have the state will be crushed by the state. It's just, I've seen it over and over and over and over and over. Another example, this girl who'd been training 4 years at another school, 4 years consistently, 3 times a week minimum. Yeah, she trained there for 4 whole years. She's 26 years old, came here because she heard that, I've mastered the internals. She trains with someone who's been training here, who's 13 and who's been training 1 time a week for 1 year. And she gets thrown around by this girl who's half her age, trained less than a quarter of the amount she has. So she's trained maybe a 1/10 of the amount of training, and she literally throws her around. Why does she do that? Because she has the state. It's as simple as that. If your mind, if your body, if your energy are not aligned, and you're not correctly directing it, where's the power going? Yeah, literally, she rolled with her for about 3 minutes, was thrown around, and then she was sweating and her shoulders were tight. She's like, "Oh, I'm so sore, I need to take a break." And then Phoenix, the girl who threw her around, the cute girl, she was just like smiling and then goes and rolls with like this big giant bloke after, and she's like, "Fine." So it's just an example of how important the state is and how overlooked it is. People do the Silam Tao and they think, "Oh, yep, I've learned the movements, I've done Silam Tao now, I've mastered it. Give me Chum Q, give me the dummy." And they don't even know how to hold their attention yet. So, yeah, state. Thanks, Red Man. Todd, what you got, brother?
Can you guys hear me?
Yep, we got you. Good to see you as well.
Hey, I was wondering about the lineage of the Wing Chun system you teach.
Yeah.
I'm new here, and I know Yip Men on down, but if you could just describe or explain it, please.
Sure. I'll grab a picture to help you explain. Help understand.
I'm a little camera shy, guys, so I'm gonna turn off my camera. But it's nice meeting you all.
You'll have to get over that.
Yeah.
So,
You're right. You're right. I should come out of my shell.
where are you, Todd? What whereabouts?
San Antonio, Texas.
Texas, awesome. I'm gonna be in Texas probably end July, beginning August, so we can touch hands as well. Alrighty, so we got Ip Man. This is Ip Man, Grandmaster Ip Man, which is all the movies is about. And that was my teacher there, Grandmaster Choi Shun Tin. He was named the King of Silam Tao. And so there's Ip Man, my master. And that's me with all the senior disciples. See that handsome devil there?
Yeah, so I was curious because I studied the Lung Ting system
Yep.
a little bit,
Yep.
I was just wondering about the lineage,
Yeah, well, that's the lineage there. So I studied with him for the last 10 years of his life. We became quite close. He was kind of like a father to me. He came to my wedding as well.
That's incredible.
Yeah, I was very blessed to train with him full time for close to 10 years. So this is the kind of the lineage. Ip Man to Grandmaster Choi Shun Tin to me with a beard. I'm growing the beard back.
Good stuff. So it's not watered down.
No, it's I'm you can call me a Wing Chun fanatic or a Wing Chun addict. That's all I really think about for the last 25 years. So
A stateful state.
Yeah, so I started with Jim Fung, to be completely clear. So Grandmaster Jim Fung in Sydney, Australia. Did 5 years with him. I was teaching for him, working with him, and then Choi Shung Tin had came to Australia. And Jim Fung was extremely powerful and was a great master. But then Choi Shung Tin came and it was like, holy shit. Like, it was like Choi Shung Tin was like a whole nother level. It was like going from, you know, daycare to a triple degree, you know what I mean? It was crazy.
Yeah.
His power was just mind blowing. So there was no way I could stay in Australia knowing there was this old 70-plus-year-old man that could fuck me up. It's like, nah.
If you don't mind me asking, Sifu,
Yeah.
what are you coming to Texas for?
Training and study. So firstly, I've got to go to LA because I'm working with school, the platform. So I'm going to go there to see them and hang out with some people there for the building the online platform. And then second, I'm going to Austin, Texas, because there's some great training there in wrestling and grappling. I also got some friends there, and there's also a good meditation teacher there. So I'll be there for about 3 months, and then ideally next year I'll be there more frequently, or even potentially permanently.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I trained under William Parker, or Sifu William Parker, in San Antonio.
Awesome. Wait, San Antonio is where you
Okay,
are.
great.
That's where you are, right? San Antonio.
Yeah, I'm in San Antonio.
Yeah, well, that's where actually a good meditation teacher. She lives there. Esther Hicks. She lives in San Antonio, and she does.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah,
I've never met her.
She does seminars there. I did one of her seminars last year in May in Philadelphia. But anyway, just it's good that you're there. I'll be seeing you, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would definitely go up to Austin. It's about an hour north for me.
Sweet.
Just to shake your hand, you know.
Awesome. Come train. I think Captain Wardo Pants will hopefully be there with me as well. He's another Aussie. We'll be over there together.
Nice, cool.
Awesome.
Okay, well, thank you, Sifu.
My pleasure, sir. Great to see you on here. Jump in as many as you can. It's good fun. It's good, really good to see you. All right, Charlie, you weapon. What you got?
Two things. So the first one, during the first form,
Yep.
when you got your arm back, the intention is that wants to go to the power plane.
That's right. So everything wants to funnel into this plane. So this starts up here, ends down at that ends down at the floor, and that stays on the whole time. Right?
And so same way doing Wu San, so you're moving it backwards, but the intention is forwards.
That's right. Everything's always forwards, always. So let's start with the first piece you spoke about. This is funneling into the power plane. You're not pushing it against your body. Its intention is to flow into the power plane. So everything always. Now, why is that? Because you want to maximize your power through the center so that you dominate that line. If you go to punch down that line, you have so much power flowing through there that it's unstoppable. And that if anyone tries to hit down that line, you're so consciously aware of it that nothing can get through. So it sets up this superior defensive and offensive mechanism because your entire being is focused through that plane. Not only that, by focusing into another person's center, you are very consciously aware of exactly how they're going to move. Yeah, and because you've been in close and done so much chi sao, you build these subconscious reflexes. So because you're looking into their center, as soon as their center goes to move, you're consciously aware of it. You know, you've built the subconscious reflex to follow, chase, and destroy. So everything always funnels into the power plane. Now, to the next part of your question, you said something about Wu Sao.
Yeah, so obviously you've got that's stationary but thinking of going forwards, and then you've got something that's moving backwards.
Yes.
Deliberately moving backwards, yet you're thinking, keep going, you want to be going forwards.
That's correct. So let's be precise with that. Thinking isn't, it's an okay word, but it's not the best word, because thinking suggests I'm thinking about pizza, for example, right? It's like a fluffy, etheric idea. It's more like you're sensing the flow forward constantly. So there's a constant flow through your system along the power plane. So another way to say it is you're aiming the space, you're pointing the sense. So it's just good to use terms that are more clear, because I've found the word thinking to be an actual blockage for people. I'll give you another example. I had a guy who'd been training for about, I think it was 10 or 12 years. He came in to check out what we're doing. And he was showing me his chi sao, and he was like, yeah, my teacher keeps telling me to think forward, but I think forward, but nothing happens. And I could see he was really trying his best to think forward. He was like straining his life away like this. But it's not a think forward. It's a sense the whole space and an aiming forward. The intention leads the energy, which leads the body. So when you say think, I get it, because people are trying to say, oh, it has to come from the mind. But it's much deeper than that. You've got different levels and qualities of thought. So think of it like I infuse my intention, which is what we do in the state, into every cell via the sensing, via the moving, and via the visual energy, but also by the feeling quality. So you sense the intention in the whole body. So you're in every cell, and you target every cell into the power plane, which is very different to thinking about it. So I just wanted to be precise with that. Every cell is targeted and flowing through the power plane is what you should mean when you say think. And yes, as your hand comes backwards, you are thinking forwards, targeting every cell flowing through the power plane forwards. And what you'll notice is that there's a springiness and a forwardness on your arm, even as it's going backwards. So if you go to press it, as you're focusing forward, there'll be like a springy sensation in your hands. You see how there's like a subtle spring, as opposed to a collapsingness, like it doesn't collapse because you're targeting everything there. Like a spring. So if you imagine I had a spring on my chest, right? And I push that spring backwards, even though it's going backwards, it still wants to go forward.
Yeah. Cool.
I actually press all my students' hands as they're retracting on any move. I'll come by and just gently give them a little pressure. Not like to push them or anything, but just so they have that mental, and feeling of always pushing forward.
That's good. That's awesome. What else do we have, gentlemen? Any final questions, thoughts, ideas, suggestions?
I have a curiosity.
Sure.
When you are in state, what do you feel in your body?
Sure. It's not a static thing, right? That's the first thing. Because sometimes people get a good feeling, right? And then they chase it. And I'm a culprit of that. My master used to put me in state, and then I'll be like, oh, I want to find that feeling. And then you go into desire and you're using force, and then, it's a spiral of frustration. So what am I feeling? Firstly, it's always an upward feeling. Like it's like meaning my emotional quality is always upward. Like I feel better is a good way of saying it. And if I notice myself go off center, which is rare, but when I do, I can catch it and release it because my center is infused already, because I am the state. I place my focus in my center and automatically I feel, So it's a nice feeling to answer the first part. But I think your question goes deeper into like, what's the experience? It's not just my feeling, right? You're not talking about just the emotional quality, is that right?
Yeah, because I've had, I get the vein popping. I've had the couple of instances where it has physically felt like electricity. The first one was last year at my son's wedding, where I just felt like I had like a 9-volt battery plugged into me throughout my entire body.
Awesome.
And then the other morning, it was like a lightning strike up and down my spine. Yeah,
awesome. That's perfect. Yeah, because you will and you will continue to have these experiences, and that's the thing. They just happen. So I'll be practicing forms, and there'll be electricity running through my system. You know, even like, you know what's a really easy trigger? It's just the Wing Chun swing. As soon as I do that, straight away I just feel like, so it's like flowing through the system. So yes, you get those electrical rushes, but you know, the first point I said is an important one. It evolves and flows. It's not a static thing. And each moment, there are similar sensations, but they're not the same. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
So feels good, firstly. That's a good indicator to know that it's on. There's a definite level of awareness, like of space. There's an ease and release. So, and what you'll notice is that I'm actually just describing the components of the state. And so the simplest way to put it is a sense of ease, a good feeling quality, an awareness of my space, and a conscious kind of directing of the flow where my attention goes.
That actually makes perfect sense to me now.
Awesome. And those experiences of the electricity, and you know what? There's more. You'll have sense of liquid, you'll have sense of fire, you'll have sense of wind. That so many different wonderful experiences will open up as you connect to the energetic system, the etheric body, further the elements. So it's a wonderful journey that just continues to evolve and go deeper. Awesome.
It's fantastic.
Tej, you got something, sir?
Yeah, just how often the idea of the state rising emotionally or centering, tuning with the intention, rising emotionally, sinking, and then, flowing forward has come up as a metaphor, as a training tool, as like Todd was just saying, a cohesion to like bring it all together. I used to train and compete in Ed Parker's like mixed martial arts as a kid, and just even the idea of being able to pull that state into you. I've been hearing it, and it's like you would sit there and you're like, as you're bowing, you're like creating the intention at your opponent, that you're gonna, whatever that is, win, dominate, whatever. But then like the moment you like sit and get into your stance, like you raise emotion, you sink to ground, and then you disrupt their center with your center, like energetically, and then it's like a magnet. That's what I was taught, is like you literally just bring yourself like into the magnet. So just that idea of like bringing it up so quickly too, within like less than 30 seconds, just kind of that exact same fusion of thought, raising of energy, mentally sinking, and then forward flowing has just been there like forever. And it's just kind of like really cool that I'm part of the school now where we're breaking it apart, but then also like bringing it together into one large etheric energy field, moving ourselves from physical into ethereal. So yeah, I just wanted to say that was super cool.
Yeah, that is awesome. Like, to your point, Tej, my master, I was at my master's place, we were all practicing the form as usual. Some people were drinking tea, we were all doing our thing. And because he used to play the TV sometimes, it was to the side at his place. And there was a soccer match, and this guy is set up to kick a penalty. And my master in Cantonese starts pointing at the TV and saying, he's in the state, like he's using the state. So this soccer player who was going to kick a penalty goal was centered, sensing, sinking, targeting everything correctly, and boof, booting the ball. So like your experience, you found yourself sparring, you found yourself rising emotion, releasing, magnetized to this. The state is our natural condition, which brings out a high level of power. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, even in later life when I, couldn't handle my anger and I was dealing with a lot of demons and like would get into actual fights and stuff. I mean, there were times where I'd be, about to get into a fight and I just like rise and I just get into this like position and my eyes would just change and people would just be like, no.
No, thank you. No, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. I do have one little question about the Silam Tao.
Sure.
Just in the original double chit, is there a purpose why we pause right here before we go down, or can that just like flow down?
Yeah, any pauses can continue to float. That's no big deal. Yeah.
Okay,
Because
I was just wondering if, because there might be some sort of trapping ability or guard, like a
Yeah.
ward off or something.
Well, like there's usually like a momentary pause between a lot of the transitions, but it's no big deal. The most important thing is you're just maintaining state. So either way is fine. You'll find that every moment feels still, even though you're moving over time. It's like you're still as you move in a way, in that you're not forcing, pushing, pressing, or in front of yourself, so to speak. You're not in a hurry. It's like as you move, there's a sense of release and stillness within it. Awesome.
I've been looking for to explain exactly that. That's how my Silam Tao feels. It's like I'm moving, but I'm not moving.
Yes, that's right. Because you're centered, yeah, and you're really in state, so it does feel like that. It's like a stillness in motion is another way it's been put. It's very yin and yang.
Perfect.
Awesome. All right, gentlemen, have a fantastic rest of your day. Much love, and I'll see you on our next one. Peace.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for the Q&A, team. Wonderful to have you here. If you haven't joined into the One Tao Family yet, it's our free training group. That was the guys in my academy there where I directly answer their questions and give them feedback. Thanks once again for coming along, and we'll see you on our next session. Peace.